Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Perth East Council, the 7th day of September. I'd like to call our meeting to order. If everyone could please bow their head for a moment of reflection. Thank you. If you have pecuniary interest, you can disclose that now or as the meeting goes along. We have 21 items on our consent agenda. Is there any item anyone would like pulled or they have questions on? Oh, yes, sorry. Back up. We need to move that the agenda as prepared for September 7, 2023 meeting of council of the Township of Perth East be approved as received. Moved by Jerry, second by Amanda. All in favor? Carried. Sorry, now we'll go to, we did pecuniary interest, now we'll go to consent agenda. 21 items. Is there anything anyone would like pulled? Questions on? Jeremy?
Yeah, there's nothing to be pulled out of here except that I think that this list gets longer and longer every meeting with requests from other municipalities, and I think that I brought this up before, but I think that's what we rely on organizations like AMO for, to advocate on our behalf. So it's here nor there, but I think in another year, this list is going to be twice as long with these different requests. So I'm not sure how we continue to handle them, but it's the consent agenda gets longer and longer, and we do have organizations that are in place to advocate on our behalf. So I'm not sure when this stops, but.
Okay, thank you. If not, then we need a motion. And the motion is that items 5.1.1 to 5.1.21 as set out on the consent agenda for the September 7, 2023 regular meeting of council be received for information, and that the minutes of August 15, 2023 regular council meeting be adopted. Moved by Bob, second by Amanda. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, we do have a public meeting. This public meeting is being held to consider a proposed zoning bylaw amendment affecting property currently owned by 100132998 Ontario Inc., care of Gerald Zare, Part Lot 13, Concession 2, Plan 291, Part Lots 10 to 12, Part South Street, Part Alfred Street, 4229, line 61. This meeting is an opportunity for the township to advise the public of the purpose and intent of the amendment and receive their input prior to considering adoption of an implementing bylaw. If a bylaw is adopted to implement the zoning amendment, a notice of passing will be forwarded by prepaid first-class mail to various agencies of interest and others who have requested notice. An appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal objecting to the adoption of the bylaw may be filed with the clerk not later than the date stated on the notice. Any person attending this meeting who wishes to receive written notice of a bylaw passed to implement the amendment is asked to give their name and mailing address to the clerk following this meeting. No written notice, except as previously noted, will be given unless requested by email following the meeting. All persons attending this meeting will be given an opportunity to be heard or make a presentation. I now will call on Planner Pune to present the planning report and recommendations. And Pune is joining us via Zoom, so that's not Pune. Oh, there's Pune.
Hello, good evening.
Welcome,
Sorry,
Pune.
I don't hear anything. I'm not sure
There we go.
what happened.
You can't hear us?
Last time it was the townships. I'm not sure if it's me this time. My apologies. I believe this is, okay, so I'll go ahead with the zoning bylaw amendment application.
Yes, go ahead.
I will share my screen. Okay. Good evening. This is a rezoning application for lands described as concession 2, part lot 13. Plan 291, part lots 10 to 12, part South Street, part Alfred Street, 4229, line 61, Mornington Warren. It's the owner is a numbered company in the care of Gerald Zer. The application was submitted by Pierre Chavan of MHPC Planning. The purpose of application is to rezone a portion of the subject lands from the mineral aggregate resource zone to a site-specific agricultural zone to facilitate the construction of a hog finishing barn, which will replace 2 barns that were previously demolished on the property. The site-specific provision zoning will allow a reduction in the minimum distance separation formula 2 to accommodate the proposed location of the barn. The remaining lands will remain at the mineral aggregate and floodplain zoning and will not be affected by the proposed development. The subject lands are approximately 37 hectares in area and are located on the southeast corner of Road 124 and line 61. The property features a residential dwelling, drive shed, and additional accessory structures. The subject lands previously contained 2 hog barns with a capacity for 825 feeder hogs, with a combined floor area of approximately 836 square meters that have been demolished. The barns were located within the MAR zone and were situated closer to the sensitive land uses than the proposed barn. Small Creek flows north to south through the site. Entry to the property is provided from line 61. There's also a driveway leading into this lot that is currently registered as a separate parcel from the mainland. The applicant is working to consolidate these 2 parcels through the land registry office. The property is designated as mineral aggregate resource, pit or quarry, agriculture, and floodplain in the Perth County official plan, and zoned mineral aggregate resources, MAR, agricultural A, and floodplain in the FB in the Perth East zoning bylaw. The applicant has provided MDS 2 calculations in support of the rezoning application. As for the planning comments, now we will review different policies with regards to this proposal. I'm sorry again that I can't hear you. Provincial policy statement protects prime agricultural areas for the long-term agricultural use. Section, there are several sections in the provincial policy statement that talk about prime agricultural areas and the permitted uses and activities. They talk about that agricultural, proposed agricultural related uses and farm related uses are all encouraged in these areas. And also all types, sizes, and intensities of agricultural uses and normal farm practices shall be promoted and protected in accordance with provincial standards. It also states that new land uses in prime agricultural areas, including the creation of lots and new or expanding livestock facilities, shall comply with the minimum distance separation formula. Okay, I'll go to the third slide. The minimum distance separation, as I mentioned, is a tool approved by the province to determine the required distance between a new or expanding livestock facility and existing sensitive uses, such as neighboring residences. Its purpose is to reduce land use conflicts in agricultural areas and protect livestock operations from encroaching sensitive uses. The MDS guideline provide a detailed explanation of the formula and direction for implementing odor setbacks for livestock facilities and anaerobic digesters. It also outlines scenarios where MDS setbacks might be varied. The provincial policy statement requires that new or expanding livestock facilities shall comply, and also that policy is echoed in the Perth County official plan and the Perth East zoning bylaw. So with regards to the zoning in the official, with regards to the permitted uses in the official plan, farm uses are permitted within the MAR, mineral aggregate resource designation. However, what is the proposal is that the portion of the parcel that the barn is going to be constructed is to be changed to agriculture, for the zone, not for the land use designation. So the farming as an agricultural activity is permitted. Now, with regards to the quality of the soil, as per the new study published in 2013 by the Ministry of Natural Resources, it concluded that this area has a tertiary quality for sand and gravel deposits. And per county official plan only recognizes mineral aggregate resource designation for primary and secondary quality. So therefore, this quality will not be included, shouldn't be included as a mineral aggregate resource. And as I mentioned, the OP also requires the MDS2 setback for new livestock facilities. And it does allow for variances to the MDS2 distances if it is determined that the variance that is requested is minor in nature. That means that no unacceptable adverse impact is associated with that, or provided the subject building proposal mitigates an environmental impact associated with the subject farming operation. So the applicant is proposing to construct a 1,500 square meter hog finishing barn with enclosed manure storage underneath. As I mentioned, the site previously housed 2 barns that were demolished due to deterioration. And now, given the fact that this is expanded, then the non-complying use will not be in effect. So if there was to be a new barn with the same square footage, then it would have been considered as a legal non-conforming. But because it is expanded, then it does not apply. And as well as that, the proposal needs a change, as well as a change of zoning. It needs a reduced MDS2 setback in relation to 4 properties. There is Fairhaven, so this is the cemetery that also includes a church, and another one would be the closest would be the cemetery and the neighboring residence at this location, and the 2 other are the church and the school related to Fairhaven that are impacted by this reduced MDS2 setback. And so the cemeteries and churches and schools are considered type B land uses. That means they are more sensitive. They're considered more sensitive land uses. And the distance that would require for calculation would be double than type A land use, such as the neighboring the residences that are in the vicinity of the area. Now, with regards to the cemeteries, the guideline, the MDS guideline that I stated, it states that certain cemeteries may be treated as type A land uses at the discretion of the municipality. For example, those cemeteries which are closed or receive low levels of visitation, or where no place of worship is present. Cemeteries meeting these criteria should be clearly identified in the municipality's planning documents on a comprehensive basis in order to be treated as type A land uses. Otherwise, all cemeteries will continue to be treated as type B land uses, and that's from the MDS guidelines. Now, with regards to the zoning, the site is zoned a mineral aggregate resource MAR, and farming and related uses, related structures are permitted. However, on the MAR zone, the barn is not permitted. So the agricultural activities are permitted, but not the barn. And I discussed the MAR with regards to the official plan. Now, with regards to the MDS setback, the guideline says MDS2 setback should not be reduced except in limited site-specific circumstances that meet the intent of the MDS document. Examples include circumstances that mitigate environmental or public health and safety impacts, or avoid a natural or human-made hazard. If deemed appropriate by municipality, the process by which a reduction to MDS may be considered would typically be through a minor variance to the local zoning bylaw provisions, or a zoning bylaw amendment would also be appropriate, which is the aim for this application. So now, with regards to the alternative locations that a barn could be located on, there are two possible locations that would meet the requirement of the MDS2 setback. However, both of these would have limitations. The first would be situated closer to the existing farming cluster that falls within the floodplain regulated by the Grand River Conservation Area, and that would pose a health and hazard risk. The policies in the provincial policy statement and the official plan and the zoning bylaw discourage construction of a building or structure on the floodplain designation. And the only exception is the buildings and structure necessary for the flood or erosion control. Now, the secondary location where the barn can be situated, which lies outside of the MDS circles, is approximately 1 kilometer from the line 61, which is around here. And that is approximately 1 kilometer away from line 61 in the rear of the site. And that would be away from the rest of the farmstead buildings, and the access would be difficult from the road. Now, with regards to the public or agency comments that we received so far, notice of public meeting was sent on August 18th, and the planning department has received the comments from GRCA. The comment was that they don't have any issue with the proposal as long as this proposed barn would be located outside of the floodplain. And another conversation was with the Fairhaven board. I spoke with the trustee, and also we received a letter today from the Fairhaven board members. And the concern was with regards to the future expansion of the cemetery, perhaps, and the church that is, is the plan is to perhaps use it in the future or expand the school or the church in the adjacent areas. And I explained the process with MDS and how that would be applicable for any development within the agricultural areas. They have no issue with they provided a letter of support for the barn, but they requested that the type B land use, that is for the cemetery, church, and school, to not be changed to type A for the purpose of this application. I also received this morning a letter of support from the adjacent landowner on 4187 line 61. And this letter of support indicates that the property is the hog barn that is proposed is not going to be limiting to his future activities, or is not a concern to him, and that he also the owner believes that the proposal will support the agricultural sector and benefit the township. This would conclude my presentation. Thank you. I will restart my computer with your permission. I will be right back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone present who wishes to make a presentation or speak in opposition of the application? Speaking against? Seeing no one. Is there anyone present who wishes to make a presentation or speak in support of the application other than the applicant or the applicant's agent? Seeing no one. Does the applicant or the applicant agents have comments in respect to the application and draft zoning bylaw, or comments that have been made? We have Agent Chelsea Major with us. If you would like to come up to the desk, and Mr. Zaire, I presume? Yes, okay. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. But that was a very thorough presentation. I'll let Terry maybe explain a little about why he's made these improvements to his barn. Yeah, just go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. So just a little bit of background. Pune explained it well, but there was some existing hog barns on this property. One of them would have probably been a structure that was 100 years old, the other one built in the late 60s or early 70s. Both of these barns had deteriorated to a point where they weren't feasible to use anymore for livestock production. So we removed them, and there was some open manure pit storages as well, or that we removed those. And our proposal is to build a new facility further back on the property, and it will house approximately twice as many hogs as what the combined capacity was of the old barns. And that is what has been the difficulty with our minimum distances. It's due to the size of the facility. So you may wonder, why am I asking for a barn of this size to be built? I think the simple answer for it is economics. As you look at what the land values have done in the last number of years, you simply need a bigger profit center to generate income to pay for land going forward. The other comment I would make is that the hog industry has seen a lot of consolidation in the last 10, 15, 20 years. Less operations, but the operations that remain have gone to a little larger scale. So a lot of it is driven by just the reality that we're faced with in the time that we're living in. My dad could pay his way through life feeding 500 hogs. I need to cover more than that. And one of the ways we do that is to put more hogs in one barn. And so when you put your boots on and get in the door, you're looking after more in one spot. We're proposing to build a facility that it's up to speed. It's going to raise hogs well. I do not think it's going to be something that is an eyesore in the community. I feel like we're simply making an investment in this farm property to get it set for the next 30, 40 years of farming in the community.
Yeah, and I'd like to note that the upgraded barn will have enclosed manure storage and upgrades to ventilation from what previously existed. So that should also reduce odor potential from what was there prior. As well, as Terry noted, the barn is going to be further kind of pushed back from line 61, so away from those type A land uses. So it'll be further back from the other barns. I think other key points to stress is how this will make for an efficient use of land. So we're trying to keep the barn with the existing farm cluster, trying to keep it out of the floodplain so it doesn't have any environmental impacts. Also keep it where the road is for the existing cluster and not push it to the far southeastern corner of the lot where it would take more prime agricultural land out of production. And then of course the improvements to the property and the investments in infrastructure. I think those are the key points that I just wanted to reiterate. Pune went over all the policy in great detail for you. Also, if you have any questions for us, we're here to answer.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from members of council? Bob?
I'm not exactly sure who's going to answer this for me, but in the county planning report, the residence is referred to as, I believe, 274 meters away. And in the MHBC report, it's indicated as 311 meters. So I'm not sure where the discrepancy is, if I'm confused or.
Mapping, that's all. It probably was just a slight change from when it was written to when the final figure, I guess, was provided.
I guess I'm asking which is the actual
It's
accurate
311,
figure.
sorry,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions?
Pune back.
Okay.
I'll just confirm that with Pune, that she agrees with that 311.
Pune, are you there?
Yes, thank you. They can hear it.
Did you hear that question? Do you agree with the 311?
So that was a bit of, yes, discrepancy in the distance. And I double checked with the nutrient management consultant, Cleon Martin, who provided the report, the MDS document to MHBC planning, just to make sure that the numbers that I have are as accurate as possible. So that's what I went based off of. And I got my information from that document.
Okay, any other questions? See no questions. Council will consider a resolution regarding the planning report recommendation following the conclusion of the public meeting. Bylaw number 209-2023 to implement the approval of the zoning application will be considered at a later date. The public meeting is now concluded and will continue with regular council meeting. So we do have a motion, and the motion is the Council of the Township of Perth East received the report dated September 7, 2023, prepared by the planner entitled Zoning Bylaw Amendment D14-Z09-2023-PE, submitted by MHBC Planning, Kara Pierre Chauvin, on behalf of 100132998 Ontario Inc., care of Gerald Zare, affecting lands described as Concession 2, Part Lot 13, Plan 291, Park Lots 10 to 12, Part South Street, Part Alfred Street, 4229, Line 61, Mornington Ward, Township of Perth East, for information, and that Council held a statutory public meeting pursuant to Section 34 of the Planning Act with respect to the zoning bylaw amendment D14-Z09-2023-PE. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Jerry, second by Amanda. All those in favor? Carried. Thanks. Okay, now we're going to move on to our public hearings. We have two of them. So the first public hearing is, this public hearing is being held to consider an application affecting property currently owned by Reed's Heritage Homes, Kara Deanna Rao, and Part Lot 416, Plan 363, Regular Plan, RP 44R 2796, Part 1, Milverton Ward, 44 Mill Street West. The purpose of this hearing is to give the committee and the public an opportunity to hear all interested persons with respect to the proposed application and receive their input, and for the committee to make a decision on the application. All persons attending this hearing will be given an opportunity to be heard or make a presentation. Committee members may ask questions for the purpose of clarifying the application, but are asked to withhold comments on this application until all present have been given an opportunity to be heard. Any person present who wishes to receive written notice of the decision made by the Committee of Adjustment is asked to give their name and mailing address to the Secretary Treasurer at this time. An appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal objecting to the decision made at this hearing may be filed with the Secretary Treasurer not later than September 27, 2023. No written notice, except as previously noted, will be given unless requested at this time. I will now call on Planner Pounet to present the planning report and recommendations. So, Pounet, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mary. Yes, and good evening, everyone. I didn't get the chance to say that before, so I'm just going to share my screen. All right. So I'm presenting the Reed's Heritage Home minor variance application submitted by Caroline Baker from Baker Planning Group. The site is located on 4454 Mill Street West. It is located on the northwest corner of Mill Street West and Main Street North. The overall site is 7.4 hectare in area. It has a frontage onto Mill Street West and Macbeth Street. The land subject to the minor variance are approximately 1.2 hectare in area. There's a cluster of industrial buildings on the southwest corner of the site, which is currently occupied by Westbell, the former owners of the land. And the purpose of this application is to facilitate the construction of semi-detached dwelling units on lots 11 to 24 within draft plan of subdivision 31T92001, registered plan lots 10 to 19. A total of 10 semi-detached dwellings that are 20 residential units are proposed. The subject land abuts agricultural land to the west and industrial lands to the south. The application is requesting relief from sections 13.2.4 and 13.2.5 of the Purchase zoning bylaw to reduce the minimum interior side yard width from 2.4 to 1.5 meter and to reduce the minimum exterior side yard from 7.5 meter to 5 meter for lots 11 to 24. The property is recognized by the County of Perth official plan as a serviced urban area within the settlement area of Milverton. And the section 6441 states that development within Milverton should be in accordance with specific land use designation and policies in the official plan. And the type of uses that are encouraged are to be in areas which will minimize the cost of providing municipal services, that will be compatible with adjacent existing and proposed development, to be located in areas which will be adjacent to existing built-up areas, and to be of an acceptable scale in relation to existing development, and to be generally directed to locations where access is available from local and collector roads as opposed to direct access onto arterial roadways, and be appropriately landscape buffered and screened in order to maintain or enhance the visual amenities of their development when abutting rail lines or different types of existing residential uses. There's also direction in the official plan of Milverton for sanitary services that new residential lots will be generally on smaller lots, and a full range of dwellings are permitted, including single and semi-detached townhouse and apartment dwellings. And the densities that are to be used as a general guideline is up to 15 units per hectare for single detached dwellings and 15 to 25 units per hectare for semi-detached dwellings. Now, lots 11 to 24 are zoned as Milverton residential medium density, Milverton residential medium density, that are so R21, R2H in the R23 and R2H in the Township of Perth zoning bylaw. The R2 zone permits the construction of semi-detached dwellings. The proposal conforms with all other zoning requirements. Now, there are four tests for a minor variance as per the Planning Act. First one is that does it maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan? So it is designated residential in the Milverton official plan, and it includes goals that I mentioned, and variety of residential land use, dwelling types are permitted, semi-detached dwellings are a permitted use. Second one is, does it maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? It is, the site is zoned Milverton medium density, residential medium density, and they do allow for a semi-detached dwelling that is proposed. And as mentioned, the subject application is proposing to reduce the interior side yard width and exterior side yard width. The intent of the interior side yard width provision is to ensure that adequate space is provided on the property between dwelling and the lot line for grading, drainage, access to the rear yard, and for building maintenance purposes. Staff are satisfied that the reduced interior side yard width will allow for adequate space for proper lot grading, drainage, and access. The intent of maintaining yard width and setbacks from the street line is to minimize the physical impact of structures along the roadway and ensure that sufficient space is provided to allow for normal maintenance of the travel roadway. Additionally, exterior side yard setbacks assist in maintaining sight lines and consistent streetscapes in residential neighborhoods. The reduced exterior side yard width will only apply to two lots with frontage on Macbeth Street and Smith Drive. Staff are satisfied that the reduced exterior side yard width for these lots will not impact sight lines for motorists and pedestrians and will not affect the township's ability to perform proper maintenance of the street. The third is that is the proposed variance minor in nature. The application is requesting a reduction of 0.9 meter to the interior side yard and 2.5 meter exterior side yard requirement to facilitate the construction of the proposed semi-detached dwelling. The applicant is able to meet all other zoning requirements with the proposed development, including parking regulation and setbacks from all lot lines. The requested reductions to the interior side yard and exterior side yard width are not considered to have negative impact on the surrounding residential development and will maintain the intent of the zoning bylaw. is the variance desirable? The first one is the variance desirable for the appropriate development or use of the land? The owner is proposing dwellings that will be of similar size with similar setbacks as other properties within the neighborhood. The development will be consistent with the neighborhood dwelling in the draft plan of subdivision and will be constructed in conformity with all other provisions of the zoning bylaw, which will allow for a consistent streetscape. The planning department is of the opinion that the minor variance is desirable for the subject property. So it is, in the light of foregoing, planning staff are of the opinion that the planning application for minor variance conforms with the official plan policies and maintains the general intent of the zoning bylaw. The variance is minor and desirable for the use of land, and as a result, approval of the variance is recommended. The comments are provided in advance of the public meeting. So if I receive more comments, I would have included it in this report. The notice of public hearing was provided on August 28th, and it was sent to all landowners within 60 meters, and I have not received any comments from agencies or neighbors, as I mentioned so far. With this, I would like to conclude my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone present who wishes to make a presentation or speak in opposition? Seeing no one, is there anyone present who wishes to make a presentation or speak in support of the application other than the applicant or the applicant's agent? Seeing no one, does the applicant's agent have any comments in respect to the application? And Caroline Baker, I believe, is going to join us on Zoom as well.
Perfect. If you can hear me, good evening, Mayor Eggetts and members of council. My name is Caroline Baker from Baker Planning Group. I am representing the owners, being Reed's Heritage Homes, with respect to this minor variance. Certainly a thorough and detailed presentation, and we certainly agree with staff's recommendation that the minor variance application meets the 4 tests under the Planning Act. I did just want to add one small additional note that the owners are proposing to construct the semi-detached units as bungalows, further assisting with matters related to privacy and overlook with the proposed side yard setback of 1.5 meters between dwelling units. Certainly, if there's any other questions, I would be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Caroline. Are there any questions from committee members? Jerry?
Not necessarily a question. I'm in full support of this project. I see some advertising around the township from the proponent that advertised in the 700,000s to start. I certainly hope with what's happening that we hopefully soon, get some affordable housing. Not only just in Milverton, but in the entire Perth East and obviously the county as well. But the 700,000s, I know they're going to sell, but we soon need some of that affordable housing. Again, I'm in full support of this project.
Okay, anyone else? If not, the committee will now consider a motion regarding the application. Motion that the Township of Perth East Committee of Adjustment receive the report dated September 7, 2023, prepared by the planner entitled Application for Minor Variance D13-A13-2023-PE, submitted by Caroline Baker, Baker Planning Group, on behalf of Reed's Heritage Homes, affecting lands described as Plan 363, Part Lot 416, Registered Plan 44R 2796, Part 1, 44 Mill Street West, Milverton Ward, Township of Perth East, for information, and that the committee approve minor variance D13-A13-2023-PE, affecting lands as described above, subject to the following condition. Number 1, that the owners obtain the necessary building permit within 2 years of the approval of the minor variance. Moved by Jerry, second by Hugh. All in favor? Carried. Great. Thanks, ladies. Have a good night, and we'll see you again. Okay, now we're going to move on to our second public hearing. And this public hearing is being held to consider an application affecting property currently owned by William J. Gees Construction Limited, care of Van Harten Surveying, Inc., and described as Lot 31, Plan 44M-80, RP 44R6052, Part 7 and 8, Milverton Ward, 105 to 107 Pew Street. I'm not going to read all the preamble because I did the last time, so we're going to jump right to Jeff. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So the minor variance application A14-2023-P was submitted by Van Harten Surveying on behalf of William J. Gees Construction. Subject property is located at 105-107 Pew Street in Milverton, is located on the south side of Pew Street between Tower Heights Drive and Colchurch Street. It's approximately 710 square meters in size and has a frontage of approximately 18 meters. The owner is currently undergoing construction of a semi-detached dwelling with 2 residential units. The existing R2-13 zone requires a minimum interior side yard width of 1.7 meters for the 2-story dwelling, and the owner is requesting relief to reduce that interior side yard width from 1.7 meters to 1.64 meters. The semi-detached dwelling is partially constructed, and the deficient side yard was discovered once a survey showing the building footprint was completed. The property is recognized by the County of Perth official plan as serviced urban area within the settlement areas and is within the residential designation in the Milverton official plan. It is zoned R2-13 in the Perth East zoning bylaw, and the proposed semi-detached residential dwelling is a permitted use. The dwelling would provide a compact development within the serviced urban area, and the minor variance conforms with the Perth County and the Milverton official plans. The minor variance to decrease the minimum side yard width maintains the intent of the zoning bylaw, as adequate space will remain in the interior side yard for grading, drainage, and rear yard access, and for building maintenance. The application is requesting a reduction of 0.06 meters to the interior side yard width requirement to facilitate the construction of that proposed semi-detached dwelling. The applicant is able to meet all of the other zoning bylaw requirements, including parking regulations and setbacks from the other lot lines. The requested side yard setback would have a minimal impact on the privacy of the adjacent property owner, and the proposed minor variance is considered to be minor in nature for the subject lands. The owner is proposing a dwelling that will be a similar size with similar setbacks as other properties that are already existing in the neighborhood. The development will be consistent with the neighboring dwelling to the west, and it will be constructed in conformity with all other provisions of the zoning bylaw, which provides for a consistent streetscape. So in conclusion, the planning department is of the opinion that the minor variance is desirable for the subject property. The Grand River Conservation Authority has responded to the circulation, and they have stated that they have no comment on the minor variance application. And at the time of writing this report and up to the meeting tonight, no comments have been received from the public. The application for the minor variance conforms with the official plan policies and maintains the general intent and purpose of the official plan and the zoning bylaw. It is minor and desirable for the use of the land, and as a result, the approval for the variance is being recommended by planning. I'm here to answer any questions from council.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Is there anyone present who wishes to make a presentation or speak in opposition of the application? Seeing no one, is there anyone present who wishes to make a presentation or speak in support of the application other than the applicant or the applicant's agent? Seeing no one, does the applicant or the applicant's agent have any comments in respect to the application? And I believe we have Agent Tracy Lesperance from Van Harten Surveying with us via Zoom. So Tracy, welcome to Perth East, and the floor is yours.
Good evening, thank you. Yes, my name is Tracy Lesperance. I'm with Van Harten Surveying. As Jeff described, we did find an error through the construction process with the right side unit being under the 1.7 that is required for a 2-story. Our encroachment is about 4 centimeters to 6 centimeters in total, so we do feel that would be minor in nature. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from committee members? Seeing no questions, the committee will now consider a motion regarding the application. The motion is that the Township of Perth East Committee of Adjustment receive the report dated September 7, 2023, prepared by the planner entitled Application for Minors Variance D13-A14-2023-PE, submitted by Tracy Lesperance, Van Harten Surveying, Inc., on behalf of William J. Geese Construction Limited, affecting lands described as Plan 44M80, Lot 31, RP 446052, Parts 7 and 8, Milverton, Township of Perth East, 105 to 107 Pew Street, Milverton, for information, and that the committee approve minor variance D13-A14-2023-PE affecting lands as described above, subject to the following condition. Number 1, that the owners obtain the necessary building permit within 2 years of the approval of the minor variance. We need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Hugh, second by Amanda. All those in favor? Carried. I declare this public hearing closed. Thanks, Tracy, and I hope you have a great rest of your night.
You too, thank you.
Okay, now we're going to move to, I think I'm on the right one, 8.1.1, consent to sever application B53-2222 submitted by GSP. Jeff, the floor is yours.
Thank you. The original consent applications were made by Brandon Flewelling on behalf of Southside Estates, and they were for the purpose of severing 3 new residential lots. So on the north side of the subject lands, the provisional consent has been granted for application B19-23, and the applicant has now requested a revision to the consent application to meet the setback requirements from the open watercourse that's located to the south of the subject lands. So the lot to be severed with this application will have an area of approximately 1,342 square meters with an approximate lot frontage of 35 meters. The retained lot would then have an area of 750 square meters and an approximate frontage of 19.7 meters. The application is being considered concurrently with the file that was provisionally approved, B19-23. And the consent application for B52-22, which was previously heard in front of Perth East Council, will be placed on hold until the applicant is able to resolve some setback concerns relating to the watercourse located immediately to the south of the subject lands. So this subject property is located within the serviced urban area in the official plan and is considered a settlement area. Subject lands are designated residential in the Milverton official plan, and the applicant is now proposing a new residential parcel in the R1 zone. The lands have direct frontage on Cobalt Street North, and servicing is available to the property. Lands are outside of any hazard areas, and the property is zoned for residential development. The development would not impact the ability to develop the future surrounding future development lands. Both the proposed severed and retained lands conform with the relevant R1 zoning provisions with respect to minimum lot area and frontage. The consolidation of the 2 proposed lots that were part of consent applications B52 and B53 into one parcel is necessary to meet the 15-meter setback requirement that is from the top of the bank of the watercourse that is immediately to the south of the development lands. The applicant has noted that they're intending to build townhomes on the north parcel, which was provisionally approved north of the residential dwelling, and they're looking to build a semi-detached dwelling on the lot that is being considered tonight. If the drainage ditch setbacks can be addressed, they would also like to build a single detached dwelling in the future and have a future severance of the lands that are being considered tonight. But they'd have to deal with that setback requirement first. The owner's lands currently do not permit townhouse dwellings or semi-detached dwellings, so in order to proceed with the development proposals that they're considering, a rezoning of each parcel would be required to allow that. Application B52-22 will remain open at this time and will allow for the owner to sever those lands in the future if they can resolve the setback concerns from the watercourse. If required, a public hearing will be held during a regularly scheduled meeting of the County of Perth Land Division Committee to consider any resolved concerns received during the circulation period. Property owner to the south of subject lands has expressed several concerns relating to the drainage and setback to the development. They want to ensure that the proposed development does not negatively impact their property or add to their existing water problems. I have been in discussions with them leading up to today's meeting, and they have also expressed some concern that they'd like to know what's going on with the parcel of land that's between their parcel and the subject lands. Those lands are zoned as future development. So before any sort of development can occur on those lands, a zone change would be required. But yet the County of Perth and the township has not received any such application to date. So, and I'm available to answer any questions that you may have relating to the application.
Okay, any questions for Jeff? Hugh?
Jeff, is that open waterway, is that like a municipal drain? Like, was that something that's always been there, like a stream? Or is that something that's been dug and put there?
Yeah, through the mayor, that is a drain that's been in place. It's an open drain. So it was identified after the last meeting, after we brought this forward to council in June. It was identified that, yes, they would have to provide that 15-meter setback from that open drain. So when they were originally considering 2 lots to the south of the residential property, we realized that if they have to meet that 15-meter requirement, one of those 2 lots wouldn't be developable. So instead of allowing them to proceed with the consent, we decided we needed to stop the process and figure out another solution. So we offered either to consolidate these 2 parcels, which is what the applicant is intending to do, or they could wait until the issues were resolved relating to that drain. So there's a potential to either close that drain, which would mean you'd have a setback of only 5 meters from the drain, or other matters could be taken into account to resolve and either move that drain or have some sort of controls put on that so that you could reduce that setback further through a zoning amendment or through a minor variance. So they decided to proceed with development because they want to sever off these lands so that they can sell off the dwelling, the residential dwelling. And that's why they brought forward the application to consolidate the 2 parcels that they were originally intending to deal with through consent.
Okay, other questions? Mike?
Just to clarify for Deputy Mayor McDermott and Council, it is not an identified municipal drain. It is an open water course that's a natural, it's been there, to answer your question, Deputy Mayor, it's an existing waterway, but it is not identified as a municipal drain currently. That's one of the things that will need to be considered in terms of this waterway is, yeah, how is it addressed going forward? Closing it does reduce the setback. Also, the idea of it maybe becoming part of the municipal drain, and there's potential around that. So those are the issues that, yeah, still need to be worked out around the water course piece.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, we do have a motion. It's kind of lengthy. I'm going to try to consolidate some of it so I won't reread everything, but Council of Township of Perth East received a report dated September 7, 2023, prepared by the planner entitled Consent Application File B53-2020-22, submitted by Brandon Flewelling on behalf of Southside Estates, Inc. for lands described as Concession 4, Lot 8, Milverton Ward, 11 Cobalt Street North, Milverton, Township of Perth East for information, and that council recommend that the County of Perth Land Division Committee or its designate approve consent application file B53-22 affecting the lands as described above, subject to the following conditions. There are 7 conditions for Perth East. Number 1, all taxes have been paid in full. 2, all financial requirements have been met. 3, that the required cash in lieu of parkland dedication fee been paid for each new severed lot. 4, that the apportioned schedule of the municipal drains in the area are reviewed and updated. 5, that the severed and retained lots of each assigned separate municipal lots each have their own assigned separate municipal addresses and signs. Number 6, that the road access to the severed and retained parcels are to the satisfaction of the Perth East. Number 7, the owner developer enter into a development agreement with the township and that the terms of the agreement be satisfactory to the Township of Perth East, including and not limited to A provision for the connection to potable water services, sanitary and storm sewage systems. B, financial securities and requirements for connection to municipal water and sanitary. And C, a requirement for entrances. And the Perth County conditions are, there's 3 of them. The following conditions will be recommended to the Land Division Committee to ensure county requirements are met during the lot creation process. So the first one is confirmation be received from a solicitor that the certificate of the official be scanned and attached to the electronic registration of the transfer. The second one, the Land Division Committee be provided with a description that is consistent with the application and equal to that required for registration of the deed or transfer. And number 3, confirmation be received by the Land Division Committee Secretary Treasurer that the notice sign and sign frame post on the property has been returned to the issuing municipality within 30 days of the decision of the Land Division Committee, and if not, then they will have to pay a fee of $100 to replace it. We need a mover and a seconder for all that. Moved by Amanda, second by Hugh. Any more comments or questions? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, thanks, Jeff. Enjoy the rest of your night. Okay, now we're going to move to the CAO, and the first item is the pre-servicing policy, application and agreement. And Eric, are you taking the floor? The floor is yours, Eric.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, the purpose of this report is for council to approve and adopt the attached draft pre-servicing policy. So staff have noted that there has been an increased demand in pre-servicing agreements between developers after their draft plan of subdivision has been approved. So historically, we have dealt with these as one-offs, but we felt it was a need to make it an official policy. So the policy is attached for council's review. We've also attached the application, and we suggest a fee of $7,000 to be included with our fees and charges for 2024. We've also included a template pre-servicing agreement, the draft of that. I do just want to let council know that the intention is for all pre-servicing agreement applications to come to council through a report with a bylaw that would authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement. If there's any questions, please let me know.
Okay, questions, Amanda?
How did we come up with the $7,000 figure?
Go ahead.
Yeah, a great question. Yeah, I did a very high level summation of the time associated with review of the applications and typically the amount of time it's involved in preparing the agreements themselves. With pre-servicing, it's a little bit hard to summarize that, Councilor Broadhagen, because depends on how much work the developer is planning to do as part of the pre-servicing is the level of review that's required. But the $7,000 figure reflects that review time for not only township staff, but also our engineer and our solicitor as well. So that's where the fee came from.
So essentially there was no like local jurisdictional scan. We just calculated our internal like resources to come up with the figure based on times.
There was also a scan of others that their pre-servicing is still, agreements themselves are still fairly new. So I am familiar with others that are in the same range as it relates to that costing.
And like one other question, so this comes into effect in the new year. So you can't do it immediately. Like you can't say like November 1 or whatever. Like I just want to make sure I understand the rationale for like the time that we're suggesting.
Really, yeah, no, I think that's a really fair question too. To be honest, we picked the January 1 period for simplicity based on the fact that we update our fees and charges bylaw then. We could certainly provide a level of notice and implement the fee earlier than that. That was the direction of council.
Okay, other questions? Andrew?
Thank you, Mayor. It's just on the on page P 128, the delegated authority. Just I've spoken with staff and I just want to make sure that this is each and individual project is going to be authorized by council. We'll see it before and vote on it and everything. Just the wording's a little. I realize we borrow this from other areas. So.
No, I appreciate the question, and I do think, yeah, we've talked about from a staff level clarifying the wording and the delegated authority. But yeah, as Eric indicated, the intent is that the agreements themselves would get in front of council before they're approved. It would not be delegated to staff at this point. It's still pre-servicing. It is that just pre-servicing. I don't want works to be happening as it relates to a development without council being aware of that. So getting council approval of the agreement keeps you guys apprised of what's happening. And pre-servicing is a significant commitment, not just for the developer, but for also for the township. So I think it's imperative that you guys make the decision as it relates to those agreements.
Okay, anyone else? If not, we have a motion that Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report entitled Pre-Servicing Policy, Application and Agreement, CAO-2023-09, DDC-2023-32, dated September 7, 2023, prepared by the Chief Administrative Officer and the Development and Drainage Coordinator for information, and further that Council approves the pre-servicing policy, and further that Council directs staff to amend the fees and charges bylaw to include the $7,000 pre-servicing application fee effective January 1, 2024. Moved by Andrew, second by Hugh. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, now we're going to move to the Seabach and Shakespeare Pioneer Cairn repairs. Mike?
Yeah, so I'll speak briefly to the report, but I also want to acknowledge the information that came in today that was circulated to council. One was correspondence from Nancy Musselman. Another was a letter received from the, I forget the name now, let me just, Architectural Conservancy of Ontario. So I want to acknowledge that and make sure that council's had an opportunity to see that information as well. Certainly the cairns, we're trying to find an avenue that makes sense, respecting the pioneers associated with the cairns, but also reflective of the maintenance, the ongoing maintenance associated with the cairns. And it's reflected in the report that there's a couple options I think that are available for council to consider. We certainly reached out to Stratford Perth Museum, knowing that they have more experience around these type of historical items than we do as a municipality, and these were the options that we came up with at that point. I understand, yeah, this has been kind of a long-going conversation with council, so I apologize that it took to this point to get back here, but I do think it was important that we try to present options for council to consider. So, well, if there are questions, I'll make best attempts to answer.
Okay, questions or comments? Hugh?
Yep. No, I appreciate the work you did on it and looking at alternatives and stuff like that. But I think for our communities, they're extremely important to our communities, both in the Ellis Ward and the Northeast Stoke Ward. So I would like to see them, I guess if they have to be rebuilt, and at least get them rebuilt so that they're going to stand the weather a whole lot better than the jobs done in the past. I know I got phone calls and emails and stuff like that on it too, and it's still, they're still considered an extremely important piece of our legacy township histories.
Okay, anyone else? Bob?
I think there are two different issues, the Seabach and the Northeast Stoke one. I'm not entirely sure, maybe someone like Rhonda would know, but I believe the Seabach one was repaired like about 20 years ago. And I would hate to see us engage similar companies to repair them when it's only gonna last 20 years. That's kind of a slap in the face of those settlers to have such poor quality workmanship done. But it's possible that that work may have been done by some of the existing settlers or family members, and maybe they did the best they can. But you know, it's a typical emotional issue that comes with $0 attached to it. And I'm well aware of the past budget and the future difficulties in budgeting, and of course the sentiment around the table through the visioning session to always find efficiencies and not find more work to do. And having said that, I do respect that some of these issues do come with a lot of heritage. I would prefer that this was maybe attached to some other organizations or members of the community who wish to fundraise for this project, rather than just leaving it the onus on the township to always come up with the money, because first things first, they're always, why are my taxes going up? And well, here's a perfect example. You're going to add some structures that we didn't know we owned and didn't maintain. And I believe we're already probably 25 years out from satisfying our capital contributions to all our structures, right? 2048, I think is. So if you truly did a assessment tomorrow of what those buildings would cost, they're gonna be a lot more than what they're valued at yesterday. So if you wanna keep throwing money away, that's fine, but I think you have to engage the community, and if they're truly interested, I'm sure they can find a way to raise this money. Otherwise, maybe it's not as important as it sounds like to them if they can't come up with a financial contribution. I think that's pretty standard in most cases. And there is one in Mornington, I believe. Is that at Carthage? And I'm sure that has been maintained by similar descendants related to that structure as well.
So to answer your question, the Seabox Hill one was rebuilt totally by the Ellis History Book Committee. We used the funds that we made from our book to rebuild it. We didn't even use the original stones. It was actually moved to, it was closer to the highway. We moved it back a bit away from the highway and over onto the people's property that at the corner just for the snowplow. It was built during the summer, and because I live in a stone house, we've had our stone house repointed, and the retired mason that we had said you can never ever build something with that way in the humidity of the summer. And I believe that cairn was built in the summer when it was humid, and that's, to me, that's my reasoning why it did not stand up. It has been prepared, or it has been repaired once already by the same gentleman that built it. I know he built one in West Perth as well. I don't know if it was the same time or shortly after. They cover theirs up every winter. I don't believe theirs has fallen apart at all. That's part of the problem. The rain gets in, it freezes, it expands, it pops the stones off. So that's kind of the history of it. So I think it was 2001, possibly 2000, somewhere in there, when 2001 when it was rebuilt. So that just gives you a little bit of history of how long it's lasted. Where the other one was built in the 1800s, I think, and lasted a lot longer. There we go. Amanda, do you have something? You had your hand.
I was just ready to make a motion.
Is there any more? Let's do questions first. Andrew, do you have something you wish to say?
Thanks. My personal opinion and opinion of a lot of people, these are probably more important than maybe even the building we're sitting in right now. So as far as the new information that's come, my email came at 6:03, so I didn't have a chance to read it. I wonder if there's some partnership, if we pass something tonight, if staff, or do we need to defer, or if staff can possibly find some partnership, even in the construction, if council chooses reconstruction and how to do it, to be true to the original nature. They did last 100 years the first time. So I'm just wondering if there's any, do we need to defer, or can it just go on the way with, depending on how the vote turns out?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think there are options that exist as it relates to council and direction. The report is in front of you. It's a recommendation. There's no resolution on the table. So I think it is open-ended at this point in terms of the direction that council wants us to take. The reason for bringing the report back is I think we needed to have a wholesome conversation about what the intent is around the cairns. If the intent is to keep them and maintain them extensively, then we need to invest in them in that manner. Piecemeal repairs aren't going to be based on the locations and what we've seen happen. Yeah, we need to really invest in them in order to do that. And pursuing partnerships, sometimes unfortunately presenting an option like we've done in the report is the only way to spur some action associated with it. So if that's the direction of council, to try to follow up with the Architectural Conservancy and have further conversations with the museum and others to see if there are other ways for others to be part of the solution, as opposed to it being, as Councillor McMillan referred to, kind of left for us to try to figure out. To Councillor McAlpine's point, we do a lot better job building buildings like this, building roads, building bridges, building sidewalks. Cairns aren't necessarily something that municipalities are experts at. We're left with them, and we try to figure out how to deal with them the best we can. And yeah, if the intent is to try to partnership with others, and that's the direction of council, I think staff could take that.
Okay, anyone else? Amanda, do you still want to make a motion, or you want someone else?
Anyway, I think there's some good discussion. I think, I share some of the comments with some of the other counselors, but I think I'm sort of the viewpoint that they are our responsibility. I would like to see them rebuilt and do it properly the first time and have the proper maintenance with covering in the winter. I appreciate the thoughts of partnership, and I think that's certainly helpful. I think there's a lot of strain in with some of our community groups as it is. And I think, we're approaching winter. It'll be here before we know it. And I think, as the mayor alluded to, that perhaps the timing and lessons learned from 20 years ago, I think we're reaching an opportune time to perhaps tackle this project. And so I personally wouldn't want to see this delayed any further. And so that's the reasoning behind the motion that I am moving.
So can just tell us what the motion is you're moving?
Yeah, sorry. The motion is to have them rebuilt and maintained by the township and covered in the winter.
Okay. Do we have a seconder for that? Andrew?
If I may.
Yes, go ahead.
Councillor Broadhagen, would it be fair that the alternative that presented in the report, would that reflect your motion? Would that be fair?
Sorry, just in terms of,
So within the report itself,
you're talking about the repair quotes?
The repair restoration is the most appropriate avenue. I would recommend we formalize maintenance agreement for the grounds, like inclusion of those items, including the tarping. Would that be?
That would be the intent, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
That's for the 2024 budget.
This is actually in
That's what that statement is.
Okay.
But this is part of it.
That is part of it.
Yeah.
So it would be a project that we would tackle next year, not this year.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think based on the time of year, I think it would be hard to complete repairs to both prior to next year's budget.
Right.
And I think there's a timing aspect to Mayor Agnett's earlier point associated with when it's appropriate to do the works.
So apologies. So we will pass our budget when next year? Our budget, because our timing's different.
Yeah. So
when is our budget going to pass?
So our intent would have the budget passed in January.
Okay, so this could hypothetically happen in the spring, the repair. Okay, I'm fine with that.
Okay, so I'll read this. And Andrew, do you want to say something first?
Just a comment, it's not really about the resolution, just I'm hearing the discussion. If there's a way we can not tarp the thing up for half the year, it might be great if it's absolutely necessary, but it's kind of, you want to see it, right? And read the plaque and stuff. So if that's a possibility, I don't think we need it part of the resolution, but it'd be nice to see it.
Okay, so that Council, Township of Perth East received a report entitled Seabock and Shakespeare Pioneer Cairn Repair, CAO-2023-10, dated September 7, 2023, prepared by the Chief Administrative Officer for information, and further, that Council support the repair and restoration of the Seabock and Shakespeare Pioneer Cairns as And recommend we formalize a maintenance agreement for the grounds that surround the cairns. Reconsider the budget requirements associated with these repairs as part of the 2024 budget, engage a qualified stonemason to make the repairs in 2024, and finally tarp off the cairns for the winter months to avoid further weathering. So Amanda moved that and Andrew second. Jeremy, you want to?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different things happening there where we're saying we're supporting it, and then we're referring it to the budget in 2024. I don't think we can really support it and refer it to budget. I think if we're supporting it, in my mind, if we're supporting it, we're giving the money to it. I heard two different statements there. I heard we're supporting it, and then I heard we're going to refer it to budget for 2024.
Maybe I shouldn't have read that statement.
Doesn't it mean that like it's going to be in the 2024 budget? Isn't that that's the way I sort of in my head intended it should be?
So yeah, the intention would be that you're supporting the restoration of the cairns and that the line item would be in the 2024 budget. So you'll need to know a dollar amount. Unless you're picking a dollar amount here, yeah.
So I think, I understand, Councillor Matheson, you're maybe hesitant to tie the hands of council, but yeah, really this resolution, the way it reads, would suggest that you're tying the hands of council, and that what would be determined as part of 2024 is how much it's going to cost.
And we still have the 15K in there from 2022?
Correct.
Set aside, yeah.
Bob?
I don't think that you can just say we'll support it without having a dollar value, because next year when you go, I don't know, February 2024 and get 5 quotes, they're gonna be, $20,000 each, $30,000 each or more, right? So maybe you have to decide that you make these monuments a little smaller, but I think you need a budget rather than just leaving it open-ended, because right now, you got the Band-Aid, which will last for a few years, and you got 1 quote, which doesn't really tell me a whole lot. The next 3 quotes could be twice that, could be less. So I think if you really want to support it, I think you have to put a cap on it.
There's 2 quotes here, right? Stone, or 3?
There's 3.
From 2023, there's 2. So how long are those quotes good for?
30 days typically. So yeah, we would need to get new quotes. And I think part of the issue, repair and rebuild mean 2 different things. And so that's part of the challenge around this. And in the Shakespeare Cairn in particular, we talked with a mason about maybe reducing the size of the overall cairn, using the stones as best we could, because that's part of the cost associated with it. Is the larger it is, the harder it is to repair. And the overall design kind of lends itself to water damage the way it's designed. So putting a cap on it was his recommendation, a limestone cap. So all of those factors as it relates to a design and what it could look like that would still serve the purpose that it needs to serve from a historical standpoint. There's so many options to consider. It might be something that council either wants to, if the idea is we need to retain them, we need to keep them, we establish a committee to look at options going forward, as opposed to trying to make a decision on all of that tonight. I think maybe if the direction, the resolution is about whether or not we're going to repair and maintain, as opposed to the recommendation in the report, and leave it at that.
Maybe we need to start over.
Yeah, I was just about to say, so I recognize there's a motion on the floor, but I'm listening to all this. I'm trying to find the best way forward to make it less complicated. Hypothetically, would it make sense for us to give direction to staff to get quotes and then come and then come back, because then we would have the dollar figure and then we would be able to have a discussion at the next council meeting.
It is, but I think from a staff perspective, we also heard about pursuing partnerships. And if that's the intent too, then that's going to require time and effort. And again, quotes are typically 30, 60 days max. So in order to pursue the partnerships,
I wouldn't, if I were to move something,
yeah,
it wouldn't be,
I'm not suggesting
with,
that's part of
yeah.
your resolution, but I've heard that from others, so.
I'll be, with your permission and Andrew's, we withdraw the motion and we'll start again.
Yeah.
How's that? Okay? Do you want to say something before we do that?
You can withdraw it, I just have a piece to say again.
Okay, so how we withdraw it, we'll reword it. Say again what you exactly want, and I'm not going to interfere this time.
Well, I think Jerry wanted to add something. So,
The question,
and so did Jerry.
the question I have is how many of these, like, I know there's one in Mornington. How many, do we know how many we may end up with in the next decade or two? Like, we could end up with other cairns or something similar to this that are on private land that, say it's on a cemetery location, then it becomes ours. And if it is a cairn, then we'll be taking care of that as well, right?
I don't believe there are any more in Perth East. I could be wrong. I don't believe there are any. There's two more?
There's three.
There's. And we have one
And
more.
Mornington.
And Mornington. We do have three. We have three of them. But I believe that's all we have. And I would think if they're going to build something, they would have to come through the township to build another one, would they not? I would think so. Andrew?
Just for the little bit of time I've had to read and try and figure out the history of this a bit, I think that the highway from Goderich to Kitchener is kind of the thing, so the Mornington one may be significant too. It's just maybe not the same vein if we want to include them all, but I like the idea of some type of committee. That way, if there is a redesign needed, that can be under the guise, we could ask our hopefully new partners to chime in on that, and I'd sit on that committee if that helps, to help move that ahead while we get quotes and wait for the good weather, because I don't think we're doing it for a while, probably till next summer. So it's been there for 100 years already with a couple patch jobs, so I think we'll be good for another year. So I will sit on the committee. I like the committee idea. So for rewording, we can do that if that's council's pleasure.
Jerry?
Yeah, so I'm in full support of having this rebuilt. To the original motion, that sounds like it's withdrawn, but it didn't indicate, as Councillor McAlpine, Councillor McMillan spoke about partnerships. I will full support of that, but it wasn't in the original motion. Maybe it was going to be implied, but yeah, I'm in favor of getting something done here, but with partnerships for sure, because I know some members feel that the community's kind of drained, but we've been saying that for a lot of years. And whenever we come up with a project, we seem to get lots of help. Look at the Well Wheels Park, look at the pool slide. So, and Shakespeare as well with the playground stuff, we seem to get some donations. So I would really want to see some partnerships for sure.
Okay, so who wants to do what now? Jerry?
Would not the simplest thing be we refer this to the budget and have staff come back with a full report? I know we did our budget visioning in July, but our first budget meeting isn't that, I can't recall which one we do, but could that not come as a full report to our first budget meeting?
That's in November.
Right.
12th.
That may give the staff enough time to look at partnerships, to look at the couple things that Mike spoke of. But again, I'm just putting it out there. I'm not making a motion, but maybe we want to move quicker on it. But I thought maybe that might be the simplest.
Andrew?
I think closer to Councillor Broadhagen's original one is that's either we support or we support or we don't. We have the option of moving it to the museum and dismantling or rebuild in place. It seems like around the table it's rebuilding in place, but I haven't heard any arguments against rebuilding it in place. So I think we need to, like was spoke before, we need to say yes or no, we're gonna do that right now, right? So rebuild in place, form a committee if necessary, and seek partnerships, including for information, maybe not for finances. Hopefully that will come. but seek partnerships, not require, you know, 30, 30, 30, 33, 33, 33. So
when you talk about rebuild, you mean start from the ground up and do it all again, or just fix the spots that are broken?
well, the staff, CO Gibbons made some good points that if we want it to last, you know, $25,000 divided by 100 years is a pretty good return on your investment. If we can do it right, then we'll save our ancestors a little bit of grief. So I would say let's rebuild it and make it good. And it's really a drop in the bucket of the money, in my opinion. So I would move pretty close to what Councillor Broadhagen moved in the beginning. Rebuild those two Karens. Those are the items in question tonight. If others come along later, and if staff believes the committee will be helpful and it won't be too much taxing on their time, then that could be added too. I'm not seeing any nodding from CO Gibbons.
Sorry, yeah, just, yeah, the idea of a committee, rebuild in place, seeking partnerships, a committee to oversee rebuild in place, seeking partnerships, I think is plausible, it's doable. I think the partnership piece is more not only about financial, about expertise as it relates to rebuilds. We don't have a stonemason on staff, and I don't want to run into the same issue that happened with the last issue. So I think that's going to play an important part too. So I think I understand let's, you know, draw the line and say we're going to rebuild them. I think the partnership piece plays a factor more than just as it relates to the financial side of it, because there are expertise out there that will help, I think, in terms of making sure that it does last 100 more years in both cases.
Amanda?
Just a point of clarification, I think I'm really on board with what Andrew is saying and elaborating on the partnership piece, that it's not just about financial, it's about all the other elements that get brought to the table. It still doesn't address the concern that was raised by Councillor McMillan, is the cost. If we're saying the wording, whether we're deferring, like the wording regarding the amount. So I want to make sure that we're not caught up in the same issue from the original motion that was pulled on the floor. So I just regarding that piece in terms of what's appropriate for referencing the budget.
Andrew?
Thank you, Mary. So as any other project we do or thing we buy, we issue tenders, get some prices, go with the lowest bid, hopefully, if it's qualified, if staff feels comfortable with them. It's, again, we're all in or we're out, and let's decide. So let's get some tenders on it and present it and go ahead.
Or not. Hugh?
I would think too that this doesn't have to happen tomorrow. So I mean, you would not have to put tenders out until, if, like Jerry talked, November, when we have our budget and that, we could have a report then. It wouldn't have to be within the next 30 days or the next whatever. It would give staff time to look at a lot of, like, get a groundwork, and it would allow you to have a committee and things like that, see what wanted to be done, so that you could get some kind of a budget together, and then you could put it out to tender. Like, I'm just saying that you don't have to do everything tomorrow.
So how about we refer it back to staff? We ask them to look into the costs to repair, costs to rebuild, the committee to help out. What else did you write in that little book?
And the partnership piece.
And the partnership piece. How about we do that? And then it can come back at budget time, and we can make the decision whether we're going to rebuild totally or we're just going to fix them. Jeremy?
Yeah. What other historical pieces does the municipality own, right? We have the Dunbar cabin on our property, which, you know, we could, Broxton School, which people have come to us. Sorry, do we own Bruxton School though? Yep. So that's on our property. Dunbar Cabin, Freifogel Tavern is not owned by us. But you have these other historical items that we own that in the past, kind of like what Bob said, we have these community groups that have come to us looking for grant money. They're doing some of the work themselves. Like we recently repainted the Bruxton School and assisted with some of the costing behind that. How much time before the Dunbar Cabin needs something again? I don't know, some year in the future, we should maybe just look at establishing some sort of fund where a community group does do the legwork. They come to us and say, hey, look, here's our plan. We would like money to restore this piece, rebuild this piece, whether it's the Dunbar Cabin or the Cairn or whatever it is. And then we have a budget for that type of thing through some sort of a granting process. I don't know how many items that would actually pick up throughout the municipality, but it would stop this one-off creation of a small committee to deal with 2 Cairns in the future too. I can only think of those 4, I guess. Maybe there's a few other historical items that are taken care of by small community groups too, but.
Okay, we've had a few different options. Who wants to move what? Jerry?
I would refer to staff, the points that were spoken by you, Mayor Agates.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that? Amanda? Is it clear as mud?
Sure. We have the recording.
That's what I'm afraid of. Okay, go ahead, Bob.
Okay, so now that people have seen this online, Nancy's here. If I was to go home tonight, I could glean more history out of the Hampstead Cemetery of, many ancestors that are on that plaque there, but my great-great-grandmother is not on that plaque, and she was the one who brought her sons over who are on that plaque. But are we gonna cater to every cemetery that comes along and says, hey, look, you know what, I can't afford to look after this, I know you've taken it over, let's repair these stones, because they are the exact same thing as what we're talking about right here. They are historical timepieces that tell a bit of history, and they're visible and they're accessible, whereas these on the highways are not so much. Sure, you get half a dozen visitors a year, but what story does that tell? So unless you're really promoting this in some way or fashion, yeah, you've repaired it and you felt good about yourself, but no one's able to go to the museum and really see it and maybe take a snapshot of it and find some history on it. And that's what the cemeteries include. So I would expect that you'd be asked to do the same for those, because they are the same as this. And we own quite a number of them, and you're going to receive that many more in the very near future, right? So.
Andrew?
Seems like we spend the most time on the smallest things, eh? So I'll keep going, Mayor Agates. So where I'm at is I thought of everything that's been spoke about yes or no, and that, but the fact remains is this is duly moved and carried resolution of council, previous resolution of council. So it's kind of hard to go back on these 2. So I think we should push ahead with let's rebuild it, and the how is the second part of the exercise. So this has already been approved. It's already partially budgeted. So I think we need to move ahead on this. If we want to get a report back, that's fine. But this has already been decided by council. So this is kind of a no-brainer.
Amanda?
Just one final, just a comment. I think Councilor McMillan brings up a good point, and these are good things to think about, but I think from my perspective, we need to focus on what's in front of us, and just respectfully, we can always think about hypotheticals, but we have to deal with what's in front of us. And I think that's why I've seconded Jerry's motion. We can get some more information and hopefully move forward to dealing with this.
Okay, so I'll read the motion again so everybody's clear. It says the Council of Township of Perth East received a report entitled Seabock and Shakespeare Pioneer Cairn Repairs CAO-2023-10 dated September 7, 2023, prepared by the Chief Administrative Officer for information that council refer to staff for a follow-up report, including rebuild and place cairns and costs, partnerships, and investigate forming committee. Okay, any more comments or questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, we're going to move on to the clerk, and the first is our 2024 meeting schedule for regular meetings and budget meetings. Ashley?
Okay, thanks, Mayor Eggetts. The only change that you'll see on the council meeting schedule is the meetings that fall after a long weekend being proposed to be on the Wednesday night rather than the Thursday night. Just allow staff more time in between the meetings and follow up and to prepare for the next round of meetings. I don't think there's any other committee meetings that fall on Wednesday nights. Other than that, I can answer any questions if there's any.
Okay, questions of the report? Jerry?
Yeah, so I'm not in favor of the Wednesday night meetings. And even, I kind of think back to when we made the decision to change from like after the long weekend to the Thursday, but I have no issues having the Tuesday night meeting after a long weekend. I guess it's probably more because of staff, but I'm not in favor of the Thursday night or Wednesday night rather versus the Thursday, but I'd sooner go back to all Tuesdays, but that's just my thoughts.
Anyone else? I think that was me that asked for that, Jerry. And I had an awful time getting ready for tonight because I was away all weekend, the long weekend. So anyway, we do have a motion. We'll see where it goes. The Council of Township of Perth East received the report entitled 2024 Meeting Schedule for Regular Meetings of Council and Budget Advisory Committee, CLE-2023-07, prepared by the Municipal Clerk, dated September 7, 2023 for information, and further that the 2024 schedule for the regular meetings of Council and the Budget Advisory Committee be approved as outlined in Schedule A. A mover and a seconder, moved by Hugh, second by Amanda. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, and then we're going to engineering appointment, and Eric, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. So my next report is for the engineer appointment for the Rostock Municipal Drain. Council may remember we received a Section 78 petition from a landowner to enclose the main drain of the Rostock Municipal Drain. UTRCA was circulated. At this point, they have no objections, and they would like to stay engaged as the project continues. Staff are hoping to appoint Dietrich Engineering Limited as the engineers on this project. If you have any questions, I can answer.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Any questions of the report? We have a motion that Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report entitled Engineer Appointment, Rostock Municipal Drain, DDC-2023-33, dated September 7, 2023, prepared by the Development and Drainage Coordinator for information, and further that Council appoint Dietrich Engineering Limited to prepare an engineer's report under Section 78 of the Drainage Act for the Rostock Municipal Drain, Lot 19, Concession 10, Ellis Ward, Township of Perth East. Moved by Hugh, second by Amanda. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, now we're going to move to finance year-to-date finances. Paula, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Eggetts. Before council tonight is the year-to-date report through August 29th of 2023. And just to recap where we should be approximately for our expenses, should be approximately 2/3 or 67%. And from the comment section of the report, the general revenues is slightly above that at 69-70%. And the general expenditures are slightly below the 67% at 61%. And then for the water and wastewater systems, the revenue is 75%, and the water wastewater expenditures are 58%. So we're within the 67%, and it's in our favor. The revenues are higher in situations than the 67%, and our expenses are below the 67%. So that is operating in our favor as of now. There could be seasonal expenses that fluctuate a bit and skew those numbers. Now, the one point that I do want to continue to make with council is the fuel and heating costs are remaining to trend higher than what was budgeted. And that's consistent with the June year-to-date report as well. Analysis has been completed to date, and that confirms that it isn't an increased usage. It's more the increased cost, commodity cost, and the under budgeting for those line items. So those line items are being monitored closely for year end. The overage has been reduced and come down from the original projection in June. So I'm hoping it continues to trend that way. However, it could just be a matter of timing of filling up the tanks and stuff. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, questions of the report? Seeing no questions, we have a motion that Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report entitled Year-to-Date FIN-2023-23 dated September 7, 2023, prepared by the Treasurer for information. Moved by Hugh, second by Jeremy. All those in favor? Carried. I think the weatherman is upstairs is giving us a message here. Anyway, we have no reports from Public Works, no reports from Building Bylaw Enforcement. Sorry.
Can I ask Public Works a question?
Sure.
Quickly. So Wes, just an update on the Pacific Ave here in Milverton construction. What's the anticipated completion and how that's going along? Sorry to put you on the spot, but I'm sure you've got the answer.
With their schedule, they're about a week and a half to 2 weeks behind. So I'm saying that we should see things getting wrapped up late November, hopefully. But that's all weather related as well.
And the weather's not cooperating right now, so, right? Not rain that I'm hearing?
The air. The air.
The air conditioning, oh.
Just as well, I think.
Okay, all right, we're gonna move to Recreation and Community Services, Community Sharps Dropbox Program. Becky?
I don't believe there's anything further to add to the report. It is a free service that the Huron Perth Public Health will offer. There are location drop boxes in other municipalities in the county and in Huron County. And if there's any questions, I'll happy to answer.
Okay, thank you. Any, Jeremy?
Yeah, would we Milverton and Shakespeare, or are we looking at just one location right now, or?
At this point, I don't know what the situation is in Shakespeare, because we don't manage that, so it's up to council if we want to look to put one there as well.
Jerry?
Well, kind of like in line with what Jeremy asked. So I assume it's just the perk that you've seen it. You haven't seen any yet at the Greenwood Park, the other parks, and I was going to say the Shakespeare parks that staff have seen. That's my first one. Go ahead and answer that. I have one more.
No.
Okay. Oh my gosh. No. Oh, is this for the users to put them in, or for staff and the public? What's the process for disposing of these?
So it's for users, or if staff were to come across them, then they'll have kits in their truck or availability of that so that they can pick it up safely and dispose them into this. So that's not just putting it into the garbage can where they might get stabbed if they were to pick up the garbage type thing. So it'll go into the box, and then Huron Perth arranges for pickup of them. And then if it's users too.
So it'll be a box that they can go in, but you can't get them out.
Correct.
Right. Hugh?
Yeah, Becky, did you have any conversation with any of the other municipalities that are doing this, like like West Perth? Are they happy with the program, or is there any problems or anything you should be watching out for in the future?
I did not.
Okay.
I had reached out to see who was doing it, but there was no further communications from that, though, just to see if others were using them.
Oh, is this, like, is there things further on in this program? Like, is this part of a bigger program, or is this just a service?
They also have a program where you can go into them and get necessary supplies that drug addicts use, which is, I believe, part of this program, but I'm not aware of anything further than that.
Okay, but all this we're doing though is just the drop-off box, that's it?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Andrew?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I'm just wondering, is there any addiction support or counseling or what's else is going on to try and peck away at the root cause, if it's even possible, to this problem? I know we're just addressing a health and safety issue, which is awesome. I'm just wondering.
That's, the health unit does have, if you go onto their site, or I can look it up for you as well, they do have addiction support, and there's other social services. The Stratford Social Services Department provides support that way as well.
Is it local to communities that are participating in drop boxes? And
I'm going to make the assumption yes, but I honestly don't know. I didn't look into those types of things, sorry.
No, that's fine, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? If not, we have a motion that Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report entitled Community Sharps Dropbox Program, RCS-2023-10, dated September 7, 2023, prepared by the Manager of Recreation and Community Services for information, and further that Council give 3 readings to Bylaw 39-2023, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with the Huron Perth Public Health PPH for the Community Sharps Dropbox Program. We need a mover and a seconder. Excuse me, moved by Jeremy, second by Hugh. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, we have no reports from fire. Then we're going to move to correspondence. And the first item of correspondence we have is from Mr. Thorogood, and it's about the concerns about the traffic speed on Main Street here in Milverton. What would you like to do with this report? Jerry?
Yeah, I believe Maine is, we don't have control of Main Street speed. As the township, we would have control? Okay, thanks. Yeah, this is one of the number one things I've gotten concerns over is the speed, of course, the stop signs, which is another correspondence. I wouldn't be opposed to have every street within every village in our township be lowered to 40 kilometers an hour, every street that we have control of. Speed is one of the biggest issues, again, one of the biggest complaints. I don't know what else to say, but people need to slow down, and maybe lowering the speed limit to every street to 40. I know we do have it at the school zones, but that's just my thought.
Andrew?
Thank you, Mary. So this isn't a county road out here, it's a township road? Is this a township road or?
Through Milverton, it's township.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. I guess we should probably get a report. It's what we do with everything else to see if there's an actual problem. I know the one in Shakespeare, we had a perception there was speeding in there. It turned out there wasn't, right? So sometimes, I'm not saying there isn't a problem, but we should probably justify anything, so.
Yeah, I think at Shakespeare, we had the OPP do a report for us, and we possibly could do that here too, if that's what council wishes to do, and see if there is in fact a problem. So does someone want to make a motion what we do? Refer it back to staff? And have the OPP investigate? You want
Refer to
that part
staff
of it?
and the OPP as
Or
well.
will you automatically do that, Wes?
We can reach out to the OPP.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So moved by Jerry. Do we need a seconder? Hugh? Council Township of Perth East received the correspondence from Godfrey Thorogood, Milverton resident, received August 28, 2023, concerns regarding the traffic speed on Main Street, Milverton for information, and it referred to staff for a follow-up report. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, then we have a report from Nadine Hanna, and it has to do with the stop signs. That's a letter and a petition. You want to refer that one back to staff as well? Moved by Hugh, second by Jeremy.
Yeah, and I'll elaborate slightly on this. As a person who has a lot of family members using that road, I wonder if there's even a way to, we don't manage crosswalks ourselves. We don't put people on the crosswalks, but there could be an avenue to put a couple crosswalks in that community back in there too. Designated areas to cross for people. The sidewalks in the new subdivision will end up at certain corners where they could cross hopefully safely instead of having people crossing at various spots. One would be at Cobalt, across Cobalt from the sidewalk over to the, or across, from the sidewalk on Gerber to the sidewalk on Cobalt, and then also further down Gerber to the east to cross Gerber Drive as well. There would be the corner that would cross there, but I'm not sure if crosswalks are a great idea, but it might just help to direct people to a single point of crossing instead of just, crossing at various spots.
Okay, maybe we could ask staff to look into that in their report when they bring back. Okay, so Council of Township of Perth East received the correspondence from Nadine Hanna, Milverton resident, received August 30th, 2023, letter and petition regarding a request for stop signs to be added to the intersection of Gerber Drive and Cobalt Street, Milverton for information, and at council refer back to staff for a follow-up report. And could...
Just one quick question.
Sure.
Is that considered like an arterial road? Like, do you consider that like a main road beyond, just say, a side street?
I guess in my mind, it would be a side street. The Mill Street would be, is a main, one of the main roads. Yep.
Okay, no, that's fine.
This one becomes a main road when kids are walking to school because people don't want to drive down Mill Street. So this becomes a bypass to get past the school, hence people flying down that road and not being a stop sign. People bypass Mill Street and the school on their venture to work out that end of town.
Oh, okay.
So it gets a lot of traffic because people don't want to drive past the school slowly.
Okay, so can you look into crosswalks too then as well? Okay, perfect. All in favor of that motion? Carried. Okay, the third correspondence is from Nancy Mishi, agent for Ralph Haverkamp. Request to close Alice Street and Pool, assume the unopened street allowance. And I believe we will refer that one back to staff as well. Okay, so a motion, the Council of the Township of Perth East received the correspondence from Nancy Mishi, agent for Ralph Haverkamp, received August 30th, 2023, request to close Alice Street and Pool and assume the unopened street allowance for information, and the council refer to staff for a follow-up report. Moved by Hugh, second by Jerry, all in favor? Carried. Okay, and the fourth piece of correspondence is to do with the G2G rail trail, and it's to complete the rail trail between William Street and Main Street in Milverton. So that possibly should go back to staff as well. Poor staff. Okay. So moved by Bob, second by Hugh. Motion is the Council of Township of Perth East received the correspondence from Willow Hall, Executive Director, G2G Trail, Inc., and Joe C. Phelan, received August 23rd, 2023, request to complete the G2G rail trail between William Street and Main Street, Milverton for information, and the council refer to staff for a follow-up report. Moved by Bob, second by Hugh, all in favor? Carried. Okay, we're getting there. The next thing is the mayor's meeting log. Is there any questions where I was for the month of August? what I did? No? Okay, do we have any council reports? Any committees anybody's been sitting on or anything that they want to bring forward? No? So we need a motion to accept the meeting log, moved by Jerry, second by Hugh. All in favor? Carried. I didn't have any reports. Okay, so then we have bylaws. For a first, second, third, and final reading, we have two bylaws. The first one is bylaw 39, 2023. It's a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Huron Perth Public Health for the Community Sharps Drop Box Program, and that was 8.7.1 on our agenda tonight. And the second bylaw is bylaw 40-2023, a bylaw to amend bylaw 53-217, which provides for the erection of stop signs at intersections. We need a mover and a seconder for them to have a first, second, third, and final reading. Moved by Jeremy, second by Jerry. You have a question?
So this, how did this come about? Was this a report from a while ago? As I know, normally when somebody asks for a stop sign, we get petitioned and then we go through the report process. I don't recall how this came about. Is this, someone help me with that one?
Wes?
So this was a request a while ago, and we looked into it as staff, and there was no stop sign there at all. So it's like, it should be a controlled intersection. So that's one of the reasons why we put the stop sign there.
Thanks. I believe it is a three-way. Three with no stop. Yeah, three-way with no stop. Yeah, okay, so all in favor of that? Carried. We don't have a closed session. Do we have any notice of motions? New business? Announcements, Jerry?
I've got two. You got one, right? So Saturday is the All Wheels Park dedication, open house, grand opening, I guess it is, about 10:30, 11. That's down here at the All Wheels Park. Also on Sunday, the 10th, over in Moncton, is the Perth County Mutual Aid Water Games. I know we haven't had that for a few years. Oh no, we did have it last year. Last year was here in Milverton during our anniversary. So that's in Moncton, starts at 11, so it's open to the public, no charge, come on in, there's food truck. So that's Sunday for Fireman Water Games in Moncton at the arena.
Okay, anyone else? Amanda?
The Ellis Optimists are hosting a barbecue next Thursday from 4:30 to, I believe, 6 p.m. Tickets are $20. So if that's something of interest to you, it is a drive-through meal. It would be great to see you guys come out, and I know myself and Claire will be helping hand out meals, so hope to see you there. And I think, not my ward, but the Millbank Heritage Group, they are hosting a meal as well on the Saturday, and I believe tickets are, I think, $18. It's a chicken meal. And this one, I've gone in the past, but this time it's in person, and I think it's to celebrate the 175th anniversary. There'll be activities, so check it out.
Okay, anything else? There is the Wellesley Fair coming up too next week, and they've put out a challenge. If anyone wishes to bake a pie, there's a pie contest against the, I think.
I won last time.
You won?
I won with my elderberry pie, and TBD if I'm going to do it again, but maybe.
I think I was second, so I don't know if I
Well, Bob says he bakes pies too, so like there's lots of talent here. Once.
Mine had a dragon on the top, so I don't know if you can make that.
Mine had hearts.
Well, if anyone wants to bake a pie and put it in,
I'm in.
you're quite welcome to. Okay, is that it for announcements? Then we need confirmatory bylaw. So that bylaw number 41-2023, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Township of Perth East at its regular meeting held on September 7, 2023, be read a first, second, and third time. We need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Hugh, second by Jerry. All those in favor? Carried. And the last motion of the night is we're going to adjourn at 8:58 PM. Moved by Amanda, second by Hugh. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, everyone. Hope you enjoy the rest of your night.